We open with a bustling street in Compton, California, where young Marion Suge Knight is seen growing up amidst the vibrant hip-hop culture of the 1980s. Suge Knight was born on April 19, 1965, in Compton, California. His childhood was marked by involvement in street gangs and encounters with the law. Suge Knight's involvement in street gangs began at a young age while growing up in Compton, California, a notoriously tough neighborhood. He was associated with the mob Piru Bloods gang, which was active in the area. He was known for his athleticism, particularly in football, and he played college football at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV, and briefly in the NFL for the Los Angeles Rams. However, his football career was cut short due to injuries, leading him to pursue a career in the music industry. Death Row Records was founded in 1991 by Marion Suge Knight and Andre Dr. Dre Young, with whom he collaborates to create the iconic West Coast sound. Based in Los Angeles, California, the label quickly became one of the most influential and successful record labels in the hip-hop industry during the 1990s. Death Row Records played a pivotal role in shaping the West Coast hip-hop scene, particularly with its signature gangsta rap sound. Artists like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur were signed to the label and released critically acclaimed and commercially successful albums under its banner. The label's debut release was Dr. Dre's seminal album, The Chronic, in 1992, which helped establish Death Row Records as a major player in the industry. The album's success was followed by a string of hit releases, including Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style and Tupac Shakur's All Eyes on Me. However, Death Row Records was also plagued by controversy. Suge Knight's reputation for intimidation and violence, coupled with the label's association with street gangs, contributed to its notorious image. Suge Knight had a contentious relationship with various artists throughout his career, and one notable example is his encounter with Vanilla Ice in the early 1990s. In the early days of Death Row Records, Suge Knight reportedly confronted Vanilla Ice, whose real name is Robert Van Winkle, over royalties for the song Ice Ice Baby. According to Vanilla Ice, Suge Knight and his associates allegedly pressured him into signing over a portion of the song's royalties to Death Row Records. Vanilla Ice has recounted that Suge Knight and his associates purportedly confronted him at a Los Angeles hotel, where they allegedly threatened him and dangled him over a balcony to coerce him into signing over the royalties. However, there have been differing accounts of what exactly transpired during this encounter, with some suggesting that it was less violent than Vanilla Ice described. Regardless of the specifics, the incident with Vanilla Ice has become part of Suge Knight's controversial reputation, highlighting his aggressive tactics and willingness to use intimidation to achieve his goals in the music industry. The relationship between Suge Knight and Sean Diddy Combs, also known as Puff Daddy, was marked by tension and occasional conflict during the East Coast-West Coast hip-hop rivalry of the 1990s. One of the most notable incidents involving the two occurred in 1995 at the Source Awards, an annual hip-hop music ceremony. During the event, Suge Knight used his acceptance speech to publicly taunt Puff Daddy and his label, Bad Boy Records, by insinuating that they were not welcome on the West Coast. This confrontation escalated tensions between the East Coast and West Coast hip-hop scenes, contributing to the feud that would later lead to tragic consequences, including the deaths of Tupac Shakur and the notorious B.I.G. The rivalry between Death Row Records, led by Suge Knight, and Bad Boy Records, headed by Puff Daddy, was fueled by competition for dominance in the hip-hop industry and personal animosity between the two moguls. While the specifics of their interactions and conflicts varied depending on different accounts and perspectives, their strained relationship played a significant role in the larger narrative of the East Coast-West Coast feud that defined hip-hop in the 1990s. Suge Knight, known for his aggressive and often violent tactics, has been involved in numerous shocking incidents that contributed to his notorious reputation. One of the most infamous stories involves Knight forcing someone to drink urine as a form of intimidation. This incident reportedly took place in the early 1990s when Knight was solidifying his control over Death Row Records and establishing his reputation for using extreme measures to maintain authority. According to various accounts, Knight forced an individual to drink around 20 shots of urine. This act was meant to serve as a severe warning to others about the lengths he would go to in order to assert dominance and control. Beyond physical violence, Knight frequently used threats to maintain control. This included verbal threats, brandishing weapons, and other forms of intimidation to ensure loyalty and obedience. There were also allegations of financial exploitation, with artists and employees claiming they were not paid fairly or were coerced into signing unfavorable contracts under duress. Knight's psychological tactics included isolating individuals, creating an environment of mistrust, and using fear to manipulate those around him. This extended to controlling personal and professional aspects of their lives, making it difficult for them to leave or oppose him. These methods contributed to the toxic and dangerous environment at Death Row Records, which, while producing some of the most influential music of the era, also became synonymous with violence and fear. This atmosphere ultimately played a role in the label's decline, as key figures like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg chose to distance themselves from Knight and his increasingly perilous operations. The breakup of Death Row Records was a complex and gradual process involving a combination of legal troubles, financial issues, internal conflicts, and the departure of key artists and executives. Death Row Records faced numerous legal challenges, including lawsuits, criminal charges, and allegations of financial mismanagement. Suge Knight, the label's CEO, was frequently embroiled in legal battles, including assault charges and a high-profile trial for a hit-and-run incident. These legal troubles drained the label's resources and tarnished its reputation. Several of Death Row Records' key artists departed from the label, impacting its creative output and commercial success. Dr. Dre, one of the label's co-founders and most successful artists, left Death Row Records in 1996 due to disputes with Suge Knight over financial matters and creative control. His departure was a significant blow to the label, as he was instrumental in shaping its sound and success. Other artists, including Snoop Dogg and Tupac Shakur, also had contentious relationships with the label and eventually parted ways. Internal conflicts and power struggles within Death Row Records further destabilized the label. Suge Knight's management style, characterized by intimidation and control, alienated many artists and executives. Disputes over royalties, contracts, and artistic freedom created tension within the label and contributed to its decline. Death Row Records filed for bankruptcy in 2006, marking the official end of the label's dominance in the hip-hop industry. Years of legal battles, financial mismanagement, and the departure of key talent took their toll on the label's stability and reputation. Despite occasional attempts at revival, Death Row Records never regained its former glory and faded into obscurity. As for the individual members of Death Row Records, Suge Knight, after facing legal troubles and serving prison time, Suge Knight's influence and involvement in the music industry waned. He continued to be associated with controversies and legal issues, including bankruptcy and further criminal charges. Following his departure from Death Row Records, Dr. Dre went on to establish his own successful record label, Aftermath Entertainment. He continued to release critically acclaimed albums and became a highly successful entrepreneur, with ventures in music production, headphones, Beats by Dre, and streaming, Beats Music, later acquired by Apple Music. Snoop Dogg's career flourished after leaving Death Row Records. He released multiple successful albums, ventured into acting and entrepreneurship, and became a cultural icon known for his music, personality, and influence on hip-hop. Tupac Shakur's tragic death in 1996 was a significant loss for the hip-hop community. His legacy as one of the genre's greatest artists continues to be celebrated through his music, activism, and cultural impact. As of January 2022, Suge Knight was serving a 28-year prison sentence for a 2018 hit-and-run incident that resulted in a man's death. Knight was convicted of manslaughter after he struck and killed Terry Carter with his truck outside a Compton restaurant in 2015. This conviction marked the latest in a series of legal troubles for the former Death Row Records CEO, who had a history of run-ins with the law dating back several decades. Knight's imprisonment effectively put an end to his career in the music industry and marked a significant chapter in his tumultuous life. Despite its downfall, Death Row Records leaves behind a lasting legacy, with its impact on hip-hop culture and music history still felt to this day. The video concludes with a dedication to Suge Knight and the legacy of Death Row Records, acknowledging their contributions to the world of hip-hop. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more stories.